Morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Principal Ma'am. Good morning, Pushpendra sir, and all the attendees. So I would like to first of all invite Principal Ma'am to say a few words to our participants and our guest. Thank you so much, Principal Ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raksha. And today is the second day of our FDP, and all of us are looking forward to it because it deals with something which is extremely pertinent and relevant, as well as something which is creative, and that is the emphasis. These three, I think, are the major pillars: the pedagogy, which is creative, digital, as well as something which is available now for teaching. We started with it out of no option, and we have seen how versatile it is. And as long as we are expected to be on it fully, of course, we will be on it fully. And my feeling is that even when we begin to meet physically, many more of us will combine physical teaching with our digital teaching. And I am very grateful to AICTE as well as Atal and our teachers. I can name only a few of them: Dr. Pushpen, Dr. Anshu, Dr. Raksha, our students, our guests who have made this possible for us, who have expanded our horizon of thinking, learning, creating, applying. And today we have with us Professor Irala from the University of Hyderabad, who's going to talk on teaching pedagogy. Very warm welcome, Professor Irala. Hyderabad University is a huge, big university, a very, very important university, well known in several disciplines and areas. And we are extremely grateful to you to have spared your time and to have agreed to address our students, teachers, who many of them are from Krodimal College, but a large number are from outside the college. And this is the idea, to share what we learn. And that is what we hope to do. And so today's day is beginning, and my best wishes. Enjoy the day, learn something which is going to add to the pleasure of teaching in the classroom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker today. It's an immense pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today. Dr. Irala Lokanda Reddy is a graduate in econometrics, postgraduate in business administration, and PhD in management sciences. He has published in such journals as Journal of Asia Pacific Economy, Indian Journal of Finance, Indian Economic Journal, Journal of Accounting and Finance, to name a few. Besides that, he has presented several papers in national and international conferences. As a successful trainer, Dr. Irala has designed and delivered several seminars, research projects, and training programs in the area of finance, pedagogical tools in management teaching, and research methodology. Dr. Irala is an FDP alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad, where he was trained on research methods and case pedagogy on management. As a passionate teacher of finance, his interests include corporate finance, investment analysis, strategic financial management, and business analytics. Dr. Irala is currently serving as Associate Professor at School of Management Studies, University of Hyderabad. Sir, on behalf of AICTE Atal and Kirodimal College, I would heartily welcome you for the session today. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Irala.
Yeah, thank you, Jahnavi. Thank you, the principal madam, and thank Dr. Pushpender for having invited me here. It's always been a pleasure interacting with the fellow members of the teaching fraternity. So, at the outset, I just want to know the profile of the audience that we have today with us. I already had a talk with Professor Pushpender, and he has given me some insights. But let me just quickly have a feel of what the class is like. So what I would request all the participants is that I am just keeping a link in the chat box. Kindly go to the link and fill up your response. So in the chat box, I am pasting a link. It's a small Google form. So all the participants, you may just go to this link, click on that link, and just let me know your response.
Everybody, please click on link and please fill out the information. Please don't reply. Please don't reply because it will, go up. Link will move up. Please don't reply.
Yeah, I hope some people have filled it. Just let me look at the responses by sharing the screen. Right. This is where we go as far as the 73 people have responded. Are you able to see the screen, please? Just respond. Yeah, you're able to see the screen. So these are our responses. This is where we go. So we see the majority of the participants, that is almost 66.7%, are from the economics, commerce, and management background. There are about 10.6% from the sciences, physics, chemistry, life science, maths, and of course 16.3% are from 16% are from other background. So mostly, roughly about 80% belong to, I would say, the social sciences. So that's where we will pitch the lecture. So mostly whatever I have prepared also is to suit people from social sciences. Then it's also very interesting to note that the most of you know these words, like case study. Almost 80% of the people know what is case study. Very few people who said they don't know. And of course, discussion leadership is a word that I wanted some of you to know, and about 60% know of it. Then learning ownership, it's 50-50. Okay, this makes the whole case for today's class. So what I'll be discussing more will be centered around learning ownership. So now I have a case. Those who do not know learning ownership today, they will know more about it, and those who already know also will have a little more perspectives built into that. Okay, flip to classroom, role play is quite okay. So now I got a feel of the class. But before I jump into the class, I want to know from the audience. You may just type in the chat box as to what I did today, or why I did what I did today just now. Asking you to take this filling up the form. What was my motive behind asking you to filling up the form? To understand the audience. Very good. So any other perspectives? Customize. Very good. Any other responses? Effective interaction, survey, direct the learning, identify the learning boundaries, engaging the audience, effective interaction. I'm very happy to note that you all have understood the crux of the exercise that I did. We'll be somewhere covering this in our lecture as to what I did and why I did. So it's good to know that most of you have connected to what I did. So let me open my lecture with my favorite slide in these kinds of occasions. Let me go here. Thank you all for your responses. So I'll get back to you. So now let us concentrate a little bit on the lecture. So though we have titled it pedagogical tools, hope you are able to see the PowerPoint presentation. One of you can respond in audio saying yes or no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So now, though we have named it as pedagogical tools, I have actually decided not to introduce you to too many tools, but to give you the essence of what all these new tools effectively mean. That means what is the underlying connecting thread among all these tools. That's what we'll be going in today's lecture. Now, if I were to ask you a question again, the relationship between the teacher and taught. So if I just leave this question as it is, and then I know that you would type so many responses, including there are very, I would say, critical observers in the audience. I have seen one response, somebody typing there is a spelling mistake in role play. That's very critical observation. So I don't want to leave it like this, but I give you a context. What do you think is the relationship between teacher and taught in school education context? So if we are talking about a high school, primary school to high school up to 10th standard, let us call it. So how do you describe the relationship between teacher and taught? If some of you have heard it, that's okay. Otherwise, how do you describe this? Can I have some responses in the chat box? If we were to describe the relationship between teacher and taught in a high school context, what ideas you will get? You can give an analogy, you can give a one-word substitution. Yeah, parent and child, top-down approach, parents and children, formal, right? Good. Go ahead, please. Friendship, good. One-sided delivery, facilitator, very good. Yeah, so you mentor, good. So some of these are actually close to the answer that I have thought of. Technical and analytical, very good, sir. In the school level, sir, technical and analytical, developing mutual understanding. Okay, very good. Thank you for your responses. Now I will give what is my analogy. So my analogy about the teacher and taught relationship in a school education is like cat and its kitten. Like cat and its kitten. What is the underlying logic here? What is the cat and kitten symbolizes? What does cat and kitten symbolize? What does cat and kitten symbolize?
Sir, it symbolizes
Holding, caring, excellent. Safety, very good. Caring, safety, holding, care, nurture, protection, parental. Exactly. That is what I wanted to tell you. That the relationship between the teacher and the students is like the cat and its family. We would draw more upon this once we draw a contrast to this as to what happens in what you call the college education. Now, before I get into my presentation, I want to know from the audience in the chat box if the school education is described uh, as the relationship between the teacher and taught as cat and its family, what would be the analogy for the college education, where most of us belong? College education means graduation and post graduation. So now, based on what we have just learned, that the relationship between teacher and taught in a school is like cat and its kitten, what it would be in a college context? Friends, direction, no, give an analogy similar to what I've given. Guide. Like cat and its family, it is what and its family. In college, if we were to take one animal and its family, what it will be, that animal or bird or anything. Eagle and its young one, sparrow, okay. Mentors, okay. No, like it is cat and its family in school education, it is what in college education. So I thought some of you would guess it. Frog and tadpole. Maybe I would ask you, lion and cub, why you are giving this? Hen and chicks, friends. Okay. Motivational. Okay. So I didn't get the answer that I have prepared for. The answer that is generally known as guide. No problem. So now I'll take you through the presentation. I mean, this interaction can wait for some time. The problem that we have is while the presentation is on, I can't see the the chat box. Otherwise, we would have held it simultaneously. But anyway, let me show you what I am thinking of. If the school education, it is cat and its family, in college education, it is monkey and its family. Now, look at these two figures carefully and tell me if you have given so many descriptions of cat and its family as caring, nurturing, protecting, right? Then what are those words that you describe the left hand side monkey and its family picture looking at it? And we can now jump into the context of actually the education. Now, the one that I've shown you is popularly known in Sanskrit as Markata Marjala Nyayam. So, Markata means the monkey, Marjala means the cat. So, the Markata Marjala Nyayam, that means the contrast that we see in how the cat cares about its kitten and how monkey cares about its babies is called Markata Marjala Nyayam. This is a Sanskrit concept that we have adapted to the education context today. Now, what words do you associate for the monkey and its family, and why do we call college education as monkey and its family? So I will just see the chat box. Creating and showing own way, very good. This is one thing that very important. Teach and explore world yourself. Yes, the person one looked upon. Okay. Unable to mark difference from form locked. Which form locked? I don't understand. Which form locked? Open the presentation in reading view. Okay, that is something that then I can. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. In fact, but then if I open it in the reading view, then the problem will be that, I can't have
No,
the...
sir. Am I audible, sir?
No problem, no problem. But for this slide, I will keep it in the reading view. But anyway, I have given the, the answer in the slide itself. You see, the basic, the idea that we have presented these two contracts is to make you aware of a concept called ownership of learning. The ownership of learning in college education should lie with the student in an ideal context. Let me again quote unquote, in an ideal context. What do we mean by ownership of learning? We'll just get into more of that details today, which I said the center of the the discussion today. If you look at the school education, we call there the responsibility of teaching. We call there the responsibility of teaching. Whereas if you look it into the collegiate education, we call it the ownership of learning. So what do you understand by ownership of learning? So what do you understand by ownership of learning, please?
Taking the initiative and responsibility.
Pardon?
Taking the initiative and responsibility. The sense of...
Yes, from the student's point of view, right?
Yeah,
asking questions, asking questions, creating curiosity.
Yeah.
Yes, asking questions by the teacher or by the student?
By the student.
They also need to monitor their
by the teacher.
progress.
Student should answer, find the answer themselves. Teacher should not give the answer.
Okay, okay.
And sir,
Fine.
they should also monitor
Basic
their own
ownership of
progress.
learning means learning is by their own experience. You cannot produce learning from others' experience. You can, and even if you produce, it will not be effective. So people have to take responsibility, means they have to find the answer. They have to create the experiences.
Very good.
Produce the learning.
Teacher is helping them to find the answers, not giving directly the answer.
Very good.
See, it is,
so somebody said two-way communication.
That is being accountable, sir.
Explain the purpose of learning. Right. So now, if we were to quickly conclude that a good teacher is one who would make the student the part of the learning, the part of the process consciously. This is very, very important. Most of us deny if you were told that we are not making the student part of the learning. We say by design he is part of the learning. Yes, by design he should be part of the learning. There are certain recommendations, certain prescriptions wherein a teacher has to take certain important steps in making students part of the whole process. And how do we do it? We will just get into the details now. Now, if we are going about the student as the center of the the teaching learning process, and if we agree that the student should have the ownership of learning, now what is expected of the student? If I have to put it in the context of the teaching learning phenomenon, and if I were to make you agree upon these 4 points, there are several other points. So now we have summarized this to the context of a class. So can I prescribe a responsible student, a student who owns the learning, right, should come prepared to the class, and he will be active in the class. He will participate in the class discussion, and he does something after the class work is over. So can we go with these 4 points, please? We'll go a little more detail into these 4 points because we can't cover today an exhaustive list of points, but I have summarized the ownership of learning into 4 points. So is this 4 points convincing to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Now, then what should be the role of the teacher? If the student is coming prepared to the class and he is active in the class, he will participate in the class discussion and he'll go back and refer the class material or class discussion and build on the class what has happened in the class. Then what would the teacher be doing? Or put simply, can this please, somebody is responding, can you please?
Sir, this is Dr. Farhanas Khan, Assistant Professor, Dr. D.Y. Patil Preschool. Sir,
Okay.
a teacher is as a role of a facilitator, and since with foggies and from the world, we bring the field to the class. The student has to come prepared to the class. He has to go through the entire case study, and the teacher is either as a moderator or a facilitator, wherein the teacher direct the class and like whether they are cracking the case in the rightest direction possible, and just show them various perspective and like how to negotiate and things like that, because students will be engaging in discussion among themselves.
So first thing is, yes, madam. First thing is, this is not just related to case studies. It is related to any class of this age. Today's class, you should ensure this happens. Now I'm asking you, what are the strategies by which? When I say strategies, we should spell out the action points. What are the strategies by which whatever you see on the left side is ensured by the teacher? Now I have one strategy that I will tell you. What I will do, I will take an undertaking from each student who is joining my class on a 100 rupees bond paper that he will do all this that is listed on the left side. I will take an undertaking, from the student that he will do all this what is listed on the left side. That is one strategy that I have. I'll make a very big board of this and display it at the entrance of the classroom, and also two boards, one on the left side, one on the right side. So this is what I do. This is my strategy. Now tell me, will this strategy work out for me? Yes or no? In the chat, type in chat box.
It will never work.
It will not work.
It will never work.
I am taking an undertaking from the student and 100 rupees bond paper, and I will also suggest penal action. If he doesn't come prepared to the class, what will be the penal action?
This agreement is legally and not enforceable.
Yeah, so most of you know that my strategies are wrong. This is where we are going to discuss today. What should a teacher do to ensure what is there on the left side happens? That's what forms most of our discussion for the next 1 hour. What should a teacher do to ensure what is on the left side? Does the student doesn't know about this? Is the student aware that to be a responsible student, to make more out of his program, to make more out of the professor's class, he should do what is listed on the left hand side? 4 things. Are the student, do you think the students are aware of this or not?
They are aware.
They are aware.
They are very
So
well
if they are
aware.
not aware, then my strategy will only serve the purpose that it will make them aware. So by signing the bonds or by signing the undertakings or by displaying it in the boards will only make the students that they should do this. Fortunately, most of our students know that they should do this. So that now here is the role of a teacher in ensuring that the students adhere to this. The students get themselves into this without much pain, get into this with interest, and does this as a matter of daily routine rather than as a matter of burden. And of course, in a class of 60, always there will be some student who are unruly, who have other goals than what they are coming to the college. We are not talking about them.
I can speak from some experience. If you want, I can share how I try to do these things. Number one, it is though we say the student takes responsibility for learning, but actually not more than, even if you go to premier institutions like IIMs and all, about 20-30% may be actually taking responsibility for learning, they are the serious learners. In some case, 50-60%, but 100% class is almost not possible because all the courses, they are not interesting to everybody.
I agree with you, sir. That's what we were now telling. We are
Okay,
at a
now
point
coming
now.
to this point which you asked, what I would say is, it is if one which I have experienced is in some of the institutions, students are very sensitive to marks, and if you give a weightage of marks to individual performance in these components, like you give more weightage to class performance, more weightage to coming prepared to class, and you go cold calling, you do cold calling in the class, and you tell the students that I'm going to cold call you people tomorrow, or even without telling those who are not participating, you start cold calling, and if evaluation weightage in our case is very misaligned with the way, with our outcomes which we want to produce.
Yeah. I agree with you, sir. Evaluation is one way that this can be done. But for today's discussion, I am keeping the evaluation as the last option. Now, even before you make evaluation as the driving force, which ensures what is listed on the slide, or which enforces into the students what is listed on the slide. Today, what we will do is spend some time and deliberate upon certain action points. And at the end, I would ask you whether you are using these issues in your teaching. If you are using these issues in your teaching, my observation is based on my experience. If you are facilitating these things, what and all I am going to discuss in your teaching, then to a greater extent, 60% of the class will come in terms with you.
No,
now,
what I can
remaining
say is
40%, yes, sir.
Yeah, what I can say is using flipped class, cold calling, giving exercises, live exercises in class to be done, and collaborative learning. These kind of things.
We'll just get into the details of that. Also, what I'll do at the beginning, I'll present a summary in 2 slides. Then we'll go to a detailed discussion of this.
Okay.
Now, what is the role of the teacher, or what is the responsibility of the teacher? We can talk about this, for so many hours. But what I want to prescribe in today's class is certain action points. Now, this is how I present. Against each point, if you are expecting your students to come prepared to the class, I am asking a question: are we prescribing a pre-class reading or a work? No, the answers could be yes or no. If it is yes, fine, we'll get into the details. If it is no, also we'll get into the details. So nobody need to answer these questions. Everybody should question themselves whether for them the answer is yes or no. Let us ask ourselves, each one of us, am I making a table, or maybe you call it a lesson plan, where it is mentioned that student, before coming to my class, whatever the class on so and so date, there is something I have told him to read. And what can be told him to read, we'll cover it in a little while from now, just a little while from now. The first thing is there such an arrangement that we are making? So if you are not making that arrangement, we should take the first step as this. Then how to do this, we'll cover it. Then 2. Then we are expecting the students to be active in the class. Now, am I making the class interesting? No, this is a qualitative question which can be deliberated upon for hours together. But then you know whether you are taking little extra effort in making your classes interesting. Then 3, whether the student is participating in the class discussion. But this the question is whether you are initiating any discussion in your class. Are you going on lecturing? Are you going on delivering the content that you have prepared for? Or you take breaks on and off, then you come back to the class and then ask them a question? Are you prepared to initiate? Are you willing to have a discussion happen in the class? And then do you possess those skills of what we call discussion leadership, details of which we'll cover little while from now. Then after every class, are we prescribing some homework or some practice exercise or some assignment that is related to the learning in the class? Now, the first step that I want all of you to, first exercise that I want all of you to undertake for your own context is, for these 4 questions, you mark your answers as yes or no. We'll come back to that later. Now, if I were to tell you what can be a pre-class reading, just to start with, you can prescribe a chapter or certain topics in a chapter from a book. Now, if you were to do this, I'm sorry, all my discussion I'm not able to place it on the slide. So there are certain points that I think important that I'm covering during the talk. So you make notes of it, out of it. Now, how many of us have a habit of prescribing a chapter or a topic from a particular chapter, couple of topics from a book as pre-class reading? If you were to do this, my suggestion to all of you is, how many of us have the habit of prescribing a textbook for your course? When I say textbook, it means roughly you follow the flow of the textbook, or roughly majority of your syllabus you try to teach from one single book. Now, there will be multiple answers. I'm sorry, I'm not putting you into discussion at every point of time. Today's class is different from the general classes. Now, I have seen so many teachers who interact with me will come with this kind of questions. The first laughs that I see is, most of the teachers teach from 3-4 books. That is fine, good enough. But the flow that they maintain is their own flow. That is also fine. But as a starting point to engage students, it is better always you settle down for a book. You might examine 100 books and finally pick up one book that best suits your style of delivery, your style of teaching, and your way of teaching, your flow of teaching, and prescribe that as a textbook. You can always give a list of 4 or 5 reference books. That's well and good. But the advantage of giving a textbook is that the student is fully aware of what topics will come up later in the classes, what is the whole gamut of things that you are planning to cover, and things like that. And it also becomes easier for you to maintain the flow and to prescribe the chapters or the topics from the textbook that has been recommended for this course. Then, of course, once this basic step you have achieved, then most of your burden of prescribing the pre-class reading material will be subsided, will be reduced, and you will also feel comfortable that you have actually a plan of doing what in every class. So to say, now I have covered 2 things. If you are not already doing that, kindly start preparing a lesson plan. If you have 40 sessions to teach, 30 sessions to teach, kindly put it on pen and paper as to what you will cover in each of those sessions, session wise, please. And maybe there is a topic that you will cover for more than one session, that is also fine. So for 40 sessions, you should have a plan. Then you map this plan with the textbook chapters. That means before coming to each and every class, the student should be aware as to what he should read. No, not only this, make this public. There is an advantage of making this public. Because you have committed, you will also try to stick on to the plan. So now, this, in the very first attempt, you may not be able to come out with exact coverage in that 1 hour. Sometimes it slips into the next class, or sometimes you are left with time, but you have already covered the syllabus, things like that. But as you go forward, basically you would stick on to this plan. And apart from this, you can also give them a journal article. Then the question journal article is, this is another point that I wanted to highlight with all my the fraternity, that today the most of the teaching faculty are not reading any journals. when we are not reading journals, where do we find articles? When we are not reading journals, when we are not keeping track, maybe we will keep track of the area that you are working little bit this way or that way. Are we reading journals? Are we reading business magazines? Are we reading business dailies? So, unless you have this habit, you will not be able to prescribe something relevant for the class. So kindly make note, in your journey to become a good professor, in your journey to become a better teacher, the first thing is, before asking students to read, we should have a habit of reading. Then similarly, you can give a newspaper clip, a case or caselet, a role play material, or you can prescribe a website, just go to the website, or you can give a note from a published source. So, the Harvard Business School Publishing, they have, notes prepared for most of their classes. They're available for sale, and then if you can afford, you can actually prescribe a note as a reading material for the pre-class reading. Or you can have your own note. There's nothing wrong that you have 2-3 page note, which is essential for the class to go on. And like somebody was referring to, you can also build this in the form of a small follow-up activity. Not only just read, but come to the class with a summary note of it, and come to the class with a PPT made out of it, and also build some evaluation if you want. This will be treated as a written assignment, written submission. Now, let me stop here for a while and take your response from the chat box. Have you understood this concept of pre-class reading? I don't want to now take a test of how many of you are doing it or how many of you are not doing it. But this is very, very essential when you say, my student should come prepared to the class. Now, whose preparation is more? The teacher should prepare more if he wants to ensure that the student comes prepared to the class. Good, that you understood. You have any questions on this slide on pre-class reading? Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
It's clear? Very good. Teachers' preparation is more important. Very good. Teachers' preparedness. No, so this is not just subject preparedness. This is about how do you want your class to go? If you want your class to take off on a different pedestal, on a different level, the student should be aware of certain things, so that you don't require to waste your class time in making students aware of certain basics. Then the second, this is the way the learning ownership is built into the student. See, we are not actually expecting the student to come read to the class, right? So what we're trying to do, the process by which you are prescribing a pre-class reading ensures that the students takes responsibility. Good. Then what happens? Then you have what is called as in-class activity. Now, how do I engage students in the class? Now, keep some surprises for them. Always don't, most of us have a habit that the moment we walk into the class, so we try to summarize for a few seconds, few minutes as to what has happened thus far, what has happened in the previous class. Now, you just don't do it. What you do, you ask some student to summarize what has happened thus far and keep this as a surprise. That means you don't announce whom you are going to ask this question to. The small element of surprise. The students will then feel, yes, I may be picked up to summarize what has happened thus far, or you can ask them to summarize what you call the pre-class reading. That is one good way of starting the class. You just ask, I hope all of you have read the article that I have prescribed. Kindly tell me what is the essence of it. Roll number so and so. Kindly please explain to the class what it is. Then occasionally make the context into a poll. Some people saying yes, some people saying no, or some people are for it, some people are against it. So you take a poll. Let people, force people, let me say, instead of saying let, force people take a side, good or bad, this side or that side, yes or no. Now, by forcing people to take a side, you are again imposing the ownership. When I take a side, then I am going to defend my side. Then I am going to defend, the stand that I have taken. So to the extent possible, you always force the students to take a side. That is by conducting a poll. Or occasionally you can ask someone or a group of people to present this you might be doing. Now what I'm trying to do all this is, any questions? Somebody is speaking? What if the student does not summarize and keep silent? Yes, sir. Abu Bakr, sir. We'll come to that, sir. What I'm trying to tell you is, on an average, if 60% is more, I'll settle down to 50%. On an average, 50% of the students will do this. The remaining 50%, in my opinion, 30% will do it if you put some element of surprise. What does this mean? Some element of surprise means if you're suddenly picking them up, they don't want to lose their face. They don't want to, lose their image in the class or whatever. So they will be prepared. I may be picked up, so let me go prepared. There will be 10% who will do it if you keep evaluation. And there will be 10% who will never do it despite all these efforts. So our objective is, are we serving 60%, 70% of the students or more? So the others we can't help, sir. Then you can also do a role play. You can also ask people to debate. This is what you can do. But I will also come out and give you certain action points as to how to do this. Look at this. When you start a class, so what portion of the class you would want to devote to discussion? Yeah, that I am also facing. Sony sub, Pavlin Sony, I don't know. Pavlin Sony, this is I am also facing that in an online class. What happens? On an average, every 2 days, once I have 2-3 online classes, including the one I am teaching. And today you would have observed what I am doing just to keep you little engaged. Yeah. So now the point is whether you would have a discussion orientation in the first place. That means whether you would want the discussion to happen in the class or not. Whether you want your classes to be one way or so. The first, you should make a mental makeup of what should be the discussion in the class. And remember, the discussion is closely related to what we call as the questions that the facilitator or the teacher is going to ask in the class. And I should go prepared on not answering the questions raised by the students. More importantly, I should go prepared to my class on the questions that I would want to ask the students. So here I want to remind you of a great saying by Socrates, that any fool can answer a question, but only an intelligent fellow can ask a question. So if you just take the spirit of this quotation, the point is I should keep ready certain questions that I should be asking in my class, prepared. It looks a little odd, but it is written in a lot of literature. I'll show you at the end the literature that I have referred to while talking to you. It is written that you should prepare a set of questions, and most importantly, there is something called the moot question. Moot question means what is the first question that you will be asking your class? Because the first question is a decisive question. The first question is a leading question. That means it will take the discussion to a particular plane depending on what is your first question. This is called moot question. And also there is something called follow-up question. There are a variety of questions. We don't have time to cover all of them today, but there are a variety of questions. You can actually conduct one class actually on how to ask questions in a class. And most importantly, it's not just that you ask questions. You should also know a little bit of where the answers will come from. So how do I know where the answer will come from? For that, I should have a knowledge of my class. So what I prescribe is know your class. It is like know your customer, KYC. For a teacher, it is important to know his class. What do you mean by knowing your class? of course, if you are delivering a lecture like this, that now I'm talking to 158 people, as I see, I didn't have time, and I didn't put effort to know all of you. But if you are teaching a regular class of a class of 60 students, 40 students over a semester or over a year, it's very, very important you take all their details. What is their educational background? Starting from there, maybe a little bit of family background, a little bit of their expertise, their hobbies, their interests. So this would help you actually orient the discussion in the class, as well as engage the whole class in the discussion. And when you are struck, that means the class is not able to answer a particular question, you would exactly know to whom to go to, right? So the details of that I'll cover. Now I just take a 2 minutes break before I proceed to little classy stuff. Is this what you call what was the canvas clear to all of you, please? Is the strategy clear to all of you? That means so far what I did, I have emphasized in a collegiate education, there is something called ownership of learning, and this has to be carefully injected into the students. For that, for the learning ownership to happen in a collegiate context, I have prescribed 4 action points for the students: that coming prepared to the class, being active in the class, participating in the class discussion, and post-class follow-up. And I've also given 4 strategies by the teacher to ensure this happens. Now, out of that, the first step that we have covered, that in-class preparation, and I would like to concentrate more on the second and third step, right, today. That's what I'll take you into through some about 20 slides. I mean, about 16, 17 slides are there. So before I proceed, is the canvas clearly understood? Details you can forget later, but the whole strategy is that clear to all of you, please? You can respond in the chat box. Right. Thank you. So now what I will do for the next 20-25 minutes is to take you through some of the issues in the classroom engagement. That is the part that in the 4 parts. The first part is pre-class. The last part is post-class. Right. So what we have in between is in-class. So today I'll concentrate more on in-class. Now, for the next 15 minutes or so, what I would do, basically, I would go one way because of the nature of the material to be covered. Maybe you can write down if you have any questions for the next 15 minutes. Then later on, we'll have a 10-minute discussion. Then we'll close after 12:25. That is the plan. It's 12 o'clock now in my watch. Next 15 minutes, I go with the slides. You make notes somewhere if you have any doubts, clarifications. The last 10 minutes, we will discuss that. So it's not audible. Yeah, now it is audible. I'm a little close to the Mr. Ravinder. Is it only for him? It is not audible. Yeah, others, please respond. Couple of you, is it audible? Okay, thank you. So now I would get into the full size presentation. Maybe I'll not be watching your chat box for the next few minutes. Let me get into this. Now, I always tell these are the preconditions for a successful class. One is there is a mutual respect between the instructor and students. Of course, what I'm imposing as preconditions is for a mature class, some of them might be missing in our own context, but to the extent that they are available, we'll have to proceed. Right? Then for the students to believe that you are a good teacher, you are an effective teacher, you should have some personal image that you should make in the students in the initial few classes. Maybe your research can speak. If you are a good researcher, there is probability that the students believe that you are a good teacher. Your previous classes feedback through the senior students or maybe some colleague of you telling that, yeah, X is a good lecturer, etc. So you please ensure. So if the students were to follow you, you should also work a little bit in ensuring that they carry a good image of you. And also you get into the class that the students are good. If you start the class that students are hopeless, they are bad, then these fellows are good for nothing, then it will not take off. Then instructor and students come to class well prepared, fine, divide into two parts. As instructor, you go prepared, and the students will automatically start coming prepared by ensuring what we are actually going to discuss. Right. These are all disclaimers. So we'll skip this slide to ensure that these conditions are taken for granted. This is important. Pose challenging questions and sometimes cold, warm calls and follow-up questions to promote high-quality discussion. Stimulate thoughtful student-to-student discussion. This is where I said, pitting one student against the another. Forcing students to take stands, right? Then use student background information. Please have a ready-made student background information, either by heart or you remember them. One good way to connect to students' background information is to have what is called as a seating plan of your class. Maybe you would ask students to sit in a particular way so that you remember them, and ask them, everybody, to come and sit in the same positions, right? And very, very important, you should also provide an appropriate closure to discussion segments. That means, as we get into, we will see the class has to be divided into certain discussion pastures. For example, today's class, first pasture that I wanted to decide is, highlight the importance of learning ownership, which I have covered through that first slide. Then give you the 4-point agenda from the student side and from the instructor side. That was my second pasture. The third pasture, give little bit of orientation on pre-class reading. And fourth pasture and most important pasture is that I wanted you to appreciate, what are the strategies for making things happen in class. This is very important. For each class, please clearly have 1 or 2 deliverable objectives. Don't keep your class objectives too much of description. What are the 1 or 2 things? For example, one objective is that students should know how to post from journal to ledger. That could be the objective of one class. The object of another class is students should appreciate what comes on the debit side and credit side of a profit and loss account. So these actionable objectives you should keep for each of your classes. That means when you are getting into the class, the single most important thing that the student should learn out of the class. Students also know what is the single most important thing that should take away from that class. Very important. The surprise insights. You should prepare what kind of topics, what kind of points of tension, what surprises, the counterintuitive arguments can come up in a class for you. That when you get into a class, what is going to be surprises for me? In the earlier few slides, we have told you what surprises you should plan for your students. Similarly, there will be some surprises that you might encounter. So on those things you should work out beforehand, you should go. Second, then how to leverage and engage students' strengths in a quality discussion and debate. That means there will be some students who are different, some students who are more skilled, some students who can contribute always when the class is stuck with a particular point. You should make a list of those students and keep them handy so that they will contribute to the class discussion. They will help you, lead the class discussion in a better way. Right? What should you do when the discussion is going off the track? Right? Very well, when you are discussing about political debates, when you are discussing about business wars, when you are discussing about things that are close to people's hearts, sentiments, emotions. So sometimes the class discussion could go haywire, and then it could as well go out of the track. So for that, what plan that we have? What is the contingency plan? If something goes wrong, so where do you start again? If something goes wrong, how do you control it, right? And most important, after the class discussion and after the class has discussed the matter at hand and after the class has drawn some conclusions, what is your contribution? Either you can quote from your own research, or you can quote from your own experiences, or you can quote from your own learnings that is otherwise not available to the students. So whatever is there in print, whatever is there in the textbook, whatever is there in the prescribed material, that they are aware. But something very exclusive to you, something that you only know, is something that is not available to the students. This should come out clearly as your perspective, your contribution, your delivery to the class. This is also something that you should have a plan of. Finally, I would share this material. Probably you are discussing, let us say, case in a class. The entrepreneur is personally known to you. Then you can bring in your personal interactions with the entrepreneur as something exclusive, in the class. Fine. These are the what I call the class flow design. Class flow design means you should have a structure for your class. Structure for your class means, like I told you, for today's class, I have divided the class into these 4 or 5 components. What are the 4 or 5 components? The first component is make the audience aware of the concept of ownership of learning. So that is the first passion, first component of my class. Then the second point is present to them 4 action points from the students and from the teacher for making the class successful. That is the second component. Then the third component is that deliberate upon pre-class reading material. And the fourth component is what I am currently doing, that you will have to engage them more with in-class activities. Then fifth component is question and answers, which we will begin after 6 to 7 minutes from now. So this structure and the time allocation should be very, very clear. That should form part of your preparation. Then very important, opening. How are you going to open a class? Today, you see, I have an opening strategy for this class. What was my opening strategy? I opened this class by asking you to take a survey. So you plan some activity, some interesting activity. If people were already sleeping in the class, they will come back to this. They will engage themselves. They will participate in that activity, and then it kickstarts. It kickstarts the whole thing. So I have told you what was the structure for this class by me, and what was the opening that I had planned for this class. And remember, both these things form part of your preparation. So I can't just start a class and decide some opening activity. Sometimes, based on your experience, it may go well. Sometimes it may boomerang. So you should be careful in planning the activity and keeping track of it. Then discussion leadership. This is very, very important, and this is what happens in the class. First thing is, what follow-up questions within each pasture will motivate the students to think beyond their initial contributions. As we open up a class, for example, if you were to give an example from what I did today, I have asked a question how do you describe the teacher-taught relationship in school education? Then you give several answers, nurturing, protecting, and things like that. Then finally, I gave a picture of cat and its family. Then I want you to describe how does it reflect in case of collegiate education. Then if you have remembered your chat box, most of you were giving me only the descriptive answers. Somewhere I have come out with a follow-up question. The follow-up question is, if it were cat and its family, then what animal you think for the collegiate education. This is called the follow-up question. If you are a seasoned teacher, if you have discussed a particular topic several times, like what I did today, these questions get registered in my mind. I know that I were to hint you to think of an animal, and of course you came with some animals. If we were having time, I would have discussed. Somebody said frog and its toddlers. Then I would have asked you. You just explain me how it is. Somebody said eagle and its babies. Then I would have asked you, tell me how it describes the collegiate education. This is another follow-up question. And this question is not asked. This question is not asked just to clarify it to myself. When somebody is responding with that kind of a response, it is the duty of the teacher to get that clarified to the rest of the class. So then what to do? You get into digging into that particular example. And this will also ensure a discipline in the class that I cannot just speak something and get away. If I'm speaking, then I will be asked to explain. I'll be asked to explain. So all these strategies you will have to plan. Then what questions will you use to introduce each pasture? For every component, we talked about the moot question. You understand moot question? That is the starting question. So when I've divided the class into 3 or 4 pastures, 3 or 4 components, for each component you should have what is the moot question, what is the opening question, what is the starting question, right? Then you should also keep in mind the specific students who should be or who should not be encouraged to contribute. Now you know that some students are troublesome. Over a period of time, you will come to know that if this is the question, I should not ask X to answer it, because you know the outcome already. So that kind of strategy you should keep in mind. And also you should make students relate this to the other modules, other courses, other classes. So this class is not going to happen in isolation. A class on profit and loss account preparation has got its implications to other courses like financial management, like business planning, etc. So you should be able to make students relate this, the magnitude of this class to and its linkages to other classes. And finally, most importantly, how do you close it? Right? What is the closure plan? This is the instructor preparation summary. I'll just read out to you that you should have a clear set of teaching learning objectives. You should have a call list. That means whom to ask, whom not to ask. Then a board plan. Generally, this is followed by many teachers, that you should have a plan of how your board will look like at the end of the class. And you should have an opening question and discussion probes, then transitions from one component to other component, then follow-up questions and closing comments. So if you are prepared with all this for your class, then you could expect the student to come up with their own ways of engaging themselves in the class. So I would stop here for want of time, and maybe I think I made some sense in making you understand what I've been talking about. So we are left with another 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, quickly we can engage in the discussion. Either you can type it in the chat box, or you can ask me using your audio. So another 10 minutes we have to just reflect upon what has happened so far.
I would just like to give us some feedback.
Yeah, Rajat Gera sahab, boliye.
Yeah, the feedback is that I have tried many of these things, and over many years, let me share with you, at different type of students and different type of institutions. And I've also been a visiting faculty in many top-notch institutions.
Sir, we are not able to hear you. Can you be a bit louder, sir?
Yeah. I say that I have been trying many of these things in many type of students. And
so you have a good news for us or bad news for us, sir? Do these things work or no?
No, let me come back. If you give me 1 minute. The good news, no, the news is what you are saying is very much appropriate. I am not denying anything that you have said.
Okay.
I give reading materials with every class. I give exercises. I have all these things. Some mute question. Maybe sometimes I do start with a mute question. Let me say many of these things you are saying are very much established in literature and all.
Yes, sir.
What I would just like to share.
Sir, there is an audio cut, sir. There's a audio we are not able to hear properly. It's completely absent now. Yeah, questions will be from the chat box. Okay, related to attendance will be taken up by the organizers. is there a question for the what you call teacher? Me. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir, very good afternoon. This is Madhvendra from Kenai PSS Sultanpur. Sir,
Yeah.
I just want to know how to lead the discussion leadership while delivering any lecture in classroom.
Yes, sir. See, the discussion leadership is like I told you, you should have a moot question, which is called opening question for each of the discussion pastures. That means you divide your class into 3-4 discussion components, and for each component, you should have what you call as moot question. That means the question with which you should start the discussion. And what will be a right moot question? You will have to experiment over a period of time with different classes. So
Sir,
if you do this for 3-4 classes consciously, here very important, consciously means after every class you should write down your experiences. I started this class with this kind of a question, but this led to these kinds of answers. So the discussion did not progress in the way I wanted it to progress. Our discussion progressed in the way that you wanted to progress. So you experiment with that first question. That is called moot question. Once you have the moot question, then you should have a follow-up question. When the discussion is digressing, then you have a follow-up question which will get the discussion back into the track. There are a lot of videos available, sir. There's a lot of there is a book or article. There's something called Art of Questioning.
Yes.
Art of Questioning. You just type it in Google. You might get that, or I might share it with you. So you go through that, where a lot of questions have been discussed. If you ask this kind of a question, in what direction the class will take off, with examples. So you please search for this book or a related article. There is a lot of material available on art of questioning, because questioning is the essence of discussion.
Yeah. So can I come into the can I finish my question if it is allowed?
Yeah, Rajat sir, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So I was just trying to bring out that given the cultural dimension in Indian context, students normally don't want to answer, or they don't want to offend the teacher, or they don't want to challenge the teacher. They feel the teacher should not be challenged, and they don't want to enter into a discussion. In fact, when I recently taught in one of the premier institutions, the students asked me for a sample question paper. When I gave a sample question paper, they asked me, now please give us the answer of this question paper. I said, look, this is not possible. I don't want standardized answer. Okay, they are trying to guess what I will ask, what do I want answer. So this cultural problem we are facing is severe problem in Indian context. In Western, when I taught in Netherlands and all, I found students are willing to challenge you. They are willing to discuss with you.
Yeah. So one suggestion, quick suggestion maybe that I have for what you are saying is, what we do normally in a class setup is, we play the role of a facilitator. We don't make ourselves party to the discussion. See, one way to overcome what you are saying is, you be only like a speaker in an assembly or in a parliament, and you only pit the one student against the other. If some fellow is actually coming out with some prescription or some perspective, instead of you answering that, you ask somebody else to respond. Is the class in what you call agreement with what Mr. X is saying? If Y has an objection, let Y come out. This is one suggestion that I have in my mind to overcome this
your
kind
suggestion is very much valid, and this is also one of the techniques to be used.
Yeah.
Difficulty should never become part of the discussion. But the problem is, students, they don't discuss. They start, if you put students pitch them, they will get into some gang war or something. Somebody will say, no, you are right, you are wrong. You see, they don't.
Rajat sir, what we do normally, I am going to crack a joke now. Normally, when people have this kind, what I actually respond is, sir, if it is working, congratulations. If it is not working, best of the luck.
Okay, thank you.
We should go on trying this. That is the only option left with us.
No, it is that spoon feeding that they have been done for so many years.
Yes, you are right. You are right. It is very difficult to change it
To
at one
change
go.
their
But,
behavior and habit, it is very, very difficult.
yeah, but somewhere way to make a beginning, sir. Somewhere way to make a beginning.
I have been
Slowly.
trying to make beginning in many years, and I am still struggling. Okay,
right. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your contribution. Any other quick questions, please? We have another 2 minutes to go. Any other quick questions? Yeah. Anyway, I'm closing the session little 5 minutes early because I have another engagement that I've already shared with Professor Pushpender. So if you don't have any questions, I think I take leave of you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patient
Sir,
listening.
just 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Yes, continue, madam.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It was indeed a privilege to have Dr. Irala as an invited speaker in our FDP. His insightful lecture was full of wisdom and information. He shared with us the tips to make teaching and learning effective, and his discussion about responsibility of student and role of a teacher and the concept of Markata Marjala Nyayam was very interesting. I feel the teachers who have attended this lecture will be able to extract best result out of the students by applying the tips given by Dr. Irala in the teaching and classroom. Once again, I would like to thank you, sir, for sparing your precious time for all of us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Janhavi.
Thank
Thank you, Pushpender sir. Thank all the audience for this wonderful opportunity of interacting with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Some other time, some other occasion.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.